Yo, what's good, guys? We are back at it again with my final MLB The Show 23 video of the year. MLB 24 is right around the corner, and I could not be more excited personally. But I wanted to dump some tips on you guys, 22 tips that I didn't put in any of my other videos, either because I couldn't work them in or the timing wasn't right, stuff like that. But I wanted to give you guys these 22 things to do to kind of be homework, right? Because I know a lot of you guys are playing the game, playing MLB The Show 23 in preparation for 24, honing your skills. So a lot of this stuff will be useful for not only this year's game, but next year's game. Everything on this list should translate other than one thing, maybe two things, depending on what they change. So if you practice this stuff now, get it down to a T now, it's going to help you in the future. That being said, a lot of the stuff on this list is for more advanced players. If you can't take an at bat somewhat on autopilot, if you can't devote other parts of your brain to noticing other things on the fields, if it requires 100% of your concentration for your at bat, some of the stuff you won't be able to use. If you pitching is focusing on your pinpoint 100%, and not being able to notice other stuff because you're just not that high of a skill level yet, then it's going to be hard to implement a lot of this stuff. And if that describes you, I would just kind of focus on getting your hitting and pitching to a level where it doesn't require 100% of your attention. So I guess let's hop in. I have 10 pitching tips for you guys, 4 hitting tips, 3 base running tips, 3 fielding tips, and 2 miscellaneous tips to kind of help you guys take your game to the next level. If you're in a lot of 1-0 games, a lot of 3-2 low scoring games where you barely win, some of this stuff can help you, give you the edge, get you that 1 extra, 2 extra runs every few games, something like that, if you can implement a lot of this stuff. So pitching wise, first thing I would say is avoid getting in full counts. Throw a lot of first pitch strikes. You don't want to be too predictable. I'll get more into that in a minute. But you want to throw a lot of first pitch strikes. It's just like real life. If you look at MLB numbers for pitchers, if they throw a ball first pitch, the batter's batting average goes up a ton as compared to if they throw a strike first pitch. So if you look at it, successful pitchers in real life throw first pitch strikes more often than not. It's the same way in the game. You don't want to be giving up free base runners. You don't want to be falling behind in the count. You're only helping out your opponent when you're doing that. So I would encourage you guys to avoid full counts most of the time. Obviously, sometimes you can't help it, or sometimes it's smarter to go to the full count, but you want to try to avoid full counts, and you want to throw a lot of first pitch strikes. So that's the first step done. 2 is throw in some tendency breakers. I'm sure we've all kind of got to that point in the game where you're 3-4 innings in, and you're like, I've thrown this batter the same pitch the first time he comes up every time. And it's just kind of something that happens as you play the game, right? You play guys with certain swings, they line up a certain way on the plate, and it just makes it look more enticing to throw them certain pitches earlier in the count or period. So you want to try to avoid that. You want to recognize when you're doing that, because if you don't recognize it, your opponent's going to recognize it, and it's not going to be fun for you. So you got to throw in some tendency breakers sometimes. Like if my first pitch to Altuve has been some form of an outside fastball for the whole game, I want to try to avoid that. Maybe I'll backdoor the slider to make it look like a fastball. Maybe I just front door the slider. Maybe I try to sneak a sinker inside instead of outside. Stuff like that. Just little things to think about. You got to throw in some tendency breakers. I'm not telling you to throw an up and in slider and hang it and get hit for a home run, but you want to throw smart pitches, but you want to also not just follow your same tendencies, because if you do that, you're going to get punished in the later innings. Your opponents are going to know how you pitch. Even if you bring in a different pitcher, that's not going to excuse it. They know what pitches you like to go to. So, number 3 is play with some tempo. Honestly, so you can kind of tell how good of a pitcher somebody is, how experienced they are with how quickly they pick their pitches. Like for me, when I'm playing, I'm thinking 3 pitches ahead, right? It's chess, it's not checkers. It is about setting you up. not every pitch is thrown to set up another pitch, but in general, with your sequencing, you kind of want to have the next pitch or the next idea that you want to implement already picked out, right? Like if I'm throwing you this middle away four seam, it's probably to either set up this cutter that's going to barely catch the zone, or it's going to be tunneled with this circle change, and you're going to be way early on it, and you're either going to miss it or you're going to roll over. So stuff like that. If you are capable of thinking in that sort of way, implementing some tempo into your game, getting quick, not sidestepping or anything like that, but just being quick with what pitches you're picking when, can help you capture opponents off balance. I'm sure we've all had at-bats where we feel uncomfortable and it's like, oh, that swing sucked, and then bang, your opponent's already got their next pitch picked out and they're coming set and they're about to throw it to you. So if you can capitalize on those type of situations as a pitcher, keep the hitter off balance, keep them guessing, that's a good thing. Number 4 is kind of going with that. Play with your tempo down. A lot of times, if I'm in a very high leverage situation in a game, like say I have a runner on second with 2 outs in the ninth, with 1 out in the ninth, maybe I'll hold the left trigger. And all that does is it makes your pitcher go look at the base runner and look back. That's all it does. Assuming you're not holding it while you're pitching, then you're going to slide step, which is not what I'm trying to encourage. But just slow yourself down, right? Obviously, the batter can step out or whatever, but if you can get them uncomfortable, because every millisecond you're on the mound not pitching, they're thinking of what pitch you're going to throw. We've all had very uncomfortable at-bats where somebody holds the ball for a long time. It's not a bad idea to implement that, especially if you've been pitching with tempo for the whole game. To sit there and slow your opponent down and keep him guessing can be advantageous for you. Number 5 is a reliever glitch. I can't really do it here, but I could do it if I hopped in a play now or something. Basically, what it is, this is what I alluded to maybe getting removed next year. It depends on how high on the priority list this is for them. I'm sure we all know how to warm up and sit down relievers, starters, whoever you're warming up. Basically, you can just hit warm up and just hit put in game right after you hit warm up, and they will come in at their full energy, completely warm with full confidence. Everything is as it would be if you did warm them up. I wouldn't say spam this. I wouldn't say get used to it, because you shouldn't. It might be gone next year, and it's always a good habit to have your pitchers warming up. So if you're ever in BR, or if you're ever in a situation where a starter's getting shelled out of nowhere, you don't have to go warm somebody up. They're already warm. But if you are in a pinch, like I just described, where say it's like the 4th inning and your starter's randomly getting shelled, and for some reason you either forgot or you didn't think it was necessary to warm up a bullpen pitcher, which you always should, this is good in a pinch. You can just throw them in. They'll be fine. They will be full energy as long as you hit warm up before you hit put in. So that was worth mentioning. I've never mentioned this throughout the year because I just found out about it about a month ago. But you can do that if you are in that situation. Number 6, find people that slam their PCI. If you are routinely throwing pitches on the corner and they are getting absolutely hammered, you probably have a slammer on your hands. And it's important to be able to identify that. And the main ways is to see what pitches somebody is comfortable swinging at, if they're hitting your mistake pitches or not, because if they're not, they're probably just slamming and overcompensating. And, if you have their strike zone, they're red hot around the edges, and down the middle is a big cold zone. So try to identify slammers. Notice when people are just slamming to your pitches and when they're actually just cracked. Which brings me another number 7, which is notice your opponent's contact. Every swing in this game makes sense. If you look at how they're hitting it, like say I actually throw this sinker that the trail fade is on for some reason with Eduardo, if he is under that and late, that is going to be popped foul somewhere along the first baseline, that right field line. If he's very early and on top of it, he's going to pull it down the third baseline. If he puts it back up the middle, he's probably either early and directly on it, or he's a little inside and early. Stuff like that. Stuff to think about. Notice how your opponent is making contact. It tells you a lot about their swing, right? A couple years ago in the show, you could literally see how your opponent swung. You still can. You just got to be smart. You got to notice these smaller details. Number 8, play your matchups. If you are in a close game in like the 7th inning and you have a runner on and you can't give up any runs, and your opponent has 3 lefties in a row coming up, and you have a righty on the mound, put in a lefty reliever. It's the smart thing to do. You're going to be statistically more successful when you put in that lefty to play that lefty matchup. If your opponent has 2 out of 3 of their next batters are lefties, you put in the lefty. You don't overthink it. Play your matchups. You're going to be more successful more times than not. Number 9, disrespect your opponent. Early in the games, you need to be throwing a lot of strikes. You need to be 3 pitching, 4 pitching people. Throw strikes more times than not. Make your opponent earn your respect. Don't just assume that everybody out there that you're playing is Ochev or Pitching Rebel, because they're not. There's a lot of people where you can throw 3 fastballs in a row down the middle and they won't hit one of them. Disrespect your opponent. Throw strikes. Try to get them out of there early. Especially because if you think a lot of people's approach online, especially when they see Randy Johnson, when they see John Donaldson, is to work the pitch count, take a lot of pitches, getting a lot of hitters counts early in the game, try to get that pitch count up so they don't have to see them the last 4 or 3 innings of the game, something like that. So get aggressive, try to get early strikeouts, strikeout looking, strikeout swinging, try to get pop-ups, just force your opponent to be uncomfortable early in the game, and then you can start to work in those chase pitches. You can start to work in more 2-2, 1-2 full counts later in the game when it doesn't really matter if your starter gets taxed really heavy. Number 10 is manage leads. I see way too many people online that don't know how to manage leads, that just kind of routinely give up steals. You do not want to be doing that, and I'm going to show you real quick how I would do that. So we're going to do a team practice. We're going to go runner on first, and we will apply that. So in general, obviously, I think that's Yuli Gurriel or Brayu or somebody over there on first. They're not stealing, right? So this is what happens when you hold the left trigger that I was talking about earlier. You look over. That is noticeable to the batter, right? You can see when I let go of the trigger, they see you looking back over. So that's just something I wanted to mention with the tempo. It's weird. You don't see a lot of people do it. It can throw a batter off a little bit. So basically, managing your leads, left trigger B, that's your normal pickoffs. What I really want to talk about more so is how to pick people off at second and at third, because you do see that a decent amount online. Runner on second here. If you are looking like this and they are taking a 1-step lead, you are probably not going to pick them off. You do not want to be doing this. So the way you would do this, I guess you can't do it in custom practice, little unfortunate, is you would hit down on the D-pad, you would hit Y, triangle, whatever it is for you. You would pick the shortstop and you would put him as hold at second. And then if your opponents take a 1-step lead, they are picked off. Does not matter. If the pitcher can't deliver the ball to second accurately or something like that, then obviously they're not picked off. But more times than not, you will be picked off if you take a 1-step with the shortstop holding. Second base is holding. It's not nearly as good. Don't know what that's about, but it's just kind of how it goes. If they are taking a lead at second base, you want to get the shortstop to hold. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but you also have to think, right? If you're giving that guy a 1-step lead at second, that's what, probably 4 feet, something like that, give or take, that they don't have to run to home. So if you're giving a 1-step and your opponent hits a single, they're probably scoring a run. So it can be the difference between you throwing out a runner or not. Just something to think about. I wouldn't sweat over it, but if you are in a stressful scenario, you can kind of backpick somebody if you get the shortstop to hold. Now, if they're at third, it's a little more complicated. If you haven't played a cornball online that takes 4 steps at third base and then steals home on you, then you haven't played the game enough. So the way you prevent that is you actually hit the left bumper to step off the mound, and assuming they're taking a multiple step leadoff and stealing, that base runner will just start sprinting home, and then you just throw it home. In those situations, you cannot let the runner cross home plate, because that's going to be a run, obviously. So you just throw it to the catcher and you run them back to third base. And if they want to keep doing that, then, learn how they base run and pick them off, whatever. Get them in a rundown, something like that. But you cannot allow them to score, so you just run them back with the catcher. And that's how you deal with that. More often than not, you'll get them out, and they will stop being cornballs and doing that. So, moving on to hitting. And sure, I'll go ahead and hop in the batting practice here. So, my first hitting tip is take away comfort pitches, take away the strongest pitches that a pitcher can throw to you, right? Everybody online wants to throw you an up and in fastball. It is a fact. There's no opinion to it. It is a absolute fact that everybody online wants to just throw up and in fastballs to you every single pitch. You play a lot of people where that's kind of their go-to because they can't hit it personally, so they think nobody can hit it, so they just throw it. Anytime they're in doubt, anytime like that, they throw it a lot. You'll play some guys online where their go-to first pitch strike is an up and away fastball, some form of that. So you have to notice that. You have to notice what your opponents like to go to when they need a strike or when they want to start an at-bat, and you have to take away those pitches. Obviously, I would not be swinging at an up and away fastball first pitch of every at-bat, but if your opponent throws that pitch to every batter for the first inning or two of the game, at some point you have to sit on it and you have to just take it away and be fine with going to get it. Especially on those higher difficulties, it is a very go-to pitch for a lot of people. It's a very safe pitch. It doesn't get punished a lot, and a lot of people will just throw that constantly on higher difficulties to start an at-bat. So you got to take away comfort pitches, and you got to take away the best pitches. A couple years ago, Edward Cabrera was pretty busted. He was like one of the first guys ever with an outlier sinker, and it was nasty. And you saw way too many people that just could not hit him at all because they refused to take away the outlier sinker. If I'm playing John Donaldson, I'm sitting on the four-seam and the slider. Either way, it's going to be very fast and probably inside. You got to take away those pitches. You can't just let him throw it to you the whole game because he's going to be very successful, and you won't be very successful if you're not hitting those pitches. You have to take away pitchers' best pitches. Chris Sale, right? You know what Chris Sale wants to throw you. He wants to throw you that upper 90s fastball, and he wants to throw you that slow slider. You got to hit one of them. Kenley Jansen, Mariano Rivera, they want to work off the sinker and the cutter. Those are their two pitches. You have to know what pitches pitchers want to throw you, and you got to take those away. You can't just let them throw it to you the whole game. You're going to be in a world of hurt. Tip number 12, jump the pitcher. Literally, jump him. Like no mercy. If you're playing somebody that throws get-me-overs a lot, or they are very predictable, you want to take advantage of that. If I've played you for the first 3 innings of the game and I notice that 80-90% of the time you're throwing first pitch strikes, I'm going to give my hitter the green light. I'm going to green light swinging at those pitches, especially if I feel like I have a good idea of what's coming. If I know what you're throwing, I'm swinging at it. So, obviously, early in the game, you want to work the count, but you can't be scared to jump the pitcher. I find this to be most effective online, usually towards the end of a long inning, right? An inning where you've already scored a run, 2 runs, where you've manufactured a lot of base runners. It's a good idea to be like, okay, this at-bat, first one I like in the zone, I'm hitting to the moon. So you want to get aggressive sometimes, and you want to try to jump the pitcher. Another thing that is underrated because it's viewed as a toxic thing is hit R2. After the first pitch, it provides you no value. But before the opposing pitcher throws his first pitch, if you hold R2, it shows you your whole last at-bat with that exact batter. So this kind of goes back to what I was talking about with tendency breakers pitching-wise. A lot of people pitch to these same batters the same way. And it's not even like the same hitters, right? Like I could have Joey Gallo and I don't know, Kerry Carpenter, a slap swinging lefty. Two very different swings. And just because they're both lefties does not mean they're going to be pitched the same. People, a lot of times, pitching wise, go off of what a stance looks like, determining on how to throw what pitches to a hitter. So if you hold R2, chances are you're going to get a lot of the same pitches again. So if you just want to tap R2 at the very start of a new at-bat for that hitter, it will let you know what he was throwing the last at-bat. Like if I held R2 right now, it would be that up and away out the zone fastball. You would see that. You'd probably see like a low and in slider, a low and away changeup, stuff like that. So just little things like that. Holding R2 at the very start of an at-bat is a good idea. I wouldn't hold it later than that, and I wouldn't try to sit there and hold it for the full duration. Just a quick little tap and hold. Be like, okay, so that's what you threw me last time, and then you're kind of mentally prepared to see those pitches. Number 14 is play your matchups. It's the same as pitching. Don't be scared to play your matchups. I also see a lot of people right now through the coaching that I do where they have so many lefties in the lineup. I've had a couple people that don't really prioritize switches like that. They're like, I don't see the difference. Statistically, it's going to be harder for you if you are stacking your lineup with lefties. You're going to see a lot of John Donaldson. You're going to see a lot of Randy Johnson. You're going to see some Leiter. You're going to see some Kershaw. You're going to see Luzardo. All those guys are very tough lefty-lefty to hit if you can get either more righties in your lineup and get more comfortable righty-righty, because to me, righty-righty shouldn't even really be a bad matchup. Most people should be pretty used to it. But try to get switches in your lineup. Try to prioritize not having more than 2-3 lefties. If you have like 4-5 lefties in your lineup, you are not going to have a fun time like 70% of the time online, because you're going to see a lefty more times than not. It's just kind of what the meta is, what pitchers are good right now. You want to prioritize not having that many lefties. Play your matchups. Get a lot of switches in there. That's the reason switches are so advantageous, is they always have the advantage. They're always batting from a side that is advantageous for them. So, number 15, base running. Base running. This is so overlooked so many times. And I don't know if there's too many great ways for me to do this, but let's say this is the situation that we're looking at here. First and second, one out. You cannot hit into a double play here, right? You can't do it. A good way of preventing that is putting the left stick over. You can see in the top right that, radial menu that shows all your base runners. I'm going to let Verlander pitch here. But you can see that little blue arrow. It's showing me which one I'm selecting. I'm, going back and forth. If you put it to the right and you tap the left bumper, he will take a one step. Is it the end of the world? No, but you're not going to get picked off most of the time, unless you're playing some freak that wants to put on a custom shift just to hold that runner at first. But you can do this at the start of every at-bat, every pitch, and you can take a one-step lead. Is it going to be a world of difference? No, most of the time not. But what it does enable you to do is it decreases the chance of you hitting into a double play by a little bit. Especially if you're in Diamond Dynasty, where that runner probably has 85 plus speed, because most players do at this point of the year. So you're getting that extra 4 feet. It's very similar to second base. You're getting that extra 4 feet to get to second base, and maybe you get a takeout slide. Maybe that runner at second is still out, but maybe you get a takeout slide animation, and the throw to first isn't in time, or it's wayward, something like that. So that's a little thing, is to take that lead. This is kind of what I was alluding to in the start, where I was talking about you need to be able to kind of autopilot your at-bat, right? Not going to tag here. That's actually the next thing. I'm autopiloting. I'm taking my one step, and now I can focus on my at-bat. But if you're online and you're getting quick pitched and the dude is throwing to you instantly, you don't have a lot of time, right? And sometimes the lobbies are really laggy, and you have to hold it to the right forever to go get that base runner to prioritize that base runner. And if you take a lead at second, there's a chance they put on a custom shift and pick you off. So that's just some little things you have to be able to manage in order to do that. And it's not the most advantageous thing, but if you are a very high level in this game, it can be the difference between you winning a game and losing a game. So, wanted to mention that. 16, early tag ups. I will try my absolute best here, no promises, to get this. 0 outs is fine. So, what I mean by early tag ups is there's actually an animation when you're tagging up. The runner has to push off of the base and start running before the tag starts. So if you are tagging when the fielder catches the ball, you're tagging late, basically. So you want to kind of prioritize it. And just like the last thing, it's tough, right? Some lobbies are really laggy, and you kind of have to learn the timing and preemptively do it. But that's where this helps you more, because if you are in a laggy lobby where you hit the left bumper when the fielder catches the ball, and it takes almost a full second for that to register and that runner to start moving, you're probably going to get thrown out. So it's even better in laggy lobbies online. So I'll try my exit velo on beginner. Maybe a contact swing. Okay, here we go. Finally, I got a situation. So I'm going to manually pick that batter. And then when the ball is kind of falling into the fielder's glove, that's when you're tagging. You can see that worked out perfect. That base runner is out if I'm not early tagging. You can see that it was such a close play that either if the fielder's throw was perfect, he'd probably be out, or if I didn't early tag, he would also be out. So it gets a little harder to implement online, especially if you're in a very, very laggy lobby. But just a small thing that can take your base running to that next level, to that absolutely top tier elite level. So, number 17 on base running, very easy, very easy. But I see way too many lower level players doing it. Stop stealing. I see people steal a lot with Mickey Mantle, right? Because he has 99 speed, but what they're not looking at is he has 63 stealing. There is, in my mind, 63 stealing is, there's almost more of a chance that he's going to get a bad jump than a good jump. So you want to try to not only avoid stealing with those guys, but you also want to avoid stealing in general. Because what stealing does is it takes your mind off of your at-bat. What you need to be focused on, the absolute most, is that at-bat and the result you get out of that at-bat. There's certain times where stealing isn't a bad idea. Like in a late game scenario, maybe you really need that run, and if you can get him to second, he has enough speed to where he'll probably score on a single. That's a scenario where maybe you'd want to steal. Another one is where your opponent is pitching you hard for a double play, and you absolutely have to avoid that double play. Maybe you wait until he throws a fastball, and then next pitch you're booking it because you know it's probably going to be off speed, and it's probably going to be a ball. Great time to steal. Avoid that double play. Do not hit into that game-ending double play. But also don't get thrown out, right? If you're getting thrown out, you're taking base runners off the base pass. And this is a game where half of your runs are going to come from home runs. So if you're taking runners off the base pass, you're turning 3-run bombs, 2-run bombs into solo home runs, which are not nearly as impactful. So try to not steal that often. Steal with a purpose. Do not just be stealing to steal. I see way too many low-ranked players. They get on first base with somebody with 90-plus speed. They're gone, no matter what. And they're not being smart about how they're stealing either. They're not going on the second pitch. They're not waiting till the third pitch. They're not taking a late leadoff after the pitcher comes set. Little things like that that go into being a great base runner, that go into stealing bases at a high clip. They're not doing. They're just booking it. So, something else to think about. Number 18, we are transitioning to fielding. So, there's a couple things here that are setting based. First thing, drifting ball. I see a lot of people on track ball that gives you the blue line. Not really a big, deal at this point of the year because every player that you're using has such high fielding that the blue line is like that. It's very obvious where you need to go. But at the start of the year, at the start of next year, you're going to want to be on drifting ball. It gives you a ball icon that shrinks as the ball gets closer, but the ball's always in the center of the ball icon. So as long as you're in the middle, you're going to catch the ball. So be on drifting ball makes everything a lot easier. While we're here, dive jump. This should probably be on 2 button. I see way too many people at the wall lining up to try to rob a home run, and they dive and they lose every chance at home run. You do not want that to be contextual. You want to be in complete control. It turns your jump into right bumper, which you almost never do unless you're at the wall, and it turns your right trigger into dive. So that's a good thing to have. And the other thing is button accuracy. I see too many people with buttons because it's easy. Buttons sucks. You do not want to be on buttons. Again, at this point in the year, it probably doesn't matter as much just because every fielder has such high throw accuracy that they probably won't make a ton of errors, but you're still leaving it up to chance. You're leaving it up to the game. And the more stuff that's in the game's control, the more RNG you can have go against you. So you do not want Nolan Arenado to be sailing one over third base in the 9th inning when you need that out. So be on button accuracy, get used to it. It's not that big of a difference. Sometimes the throwing meter moves, you'll get used to it. And the upside of it is you can now throw those perfect throws that increase the chance of you throwing a base runner out. So, my next thing is preloading your throws. I see way too many people online. If you play co-op a lot, I'm sure you'll play with some people that do this. Preload your throws. No matter what, if you are sprinting backwards with an outfielder going to get a ball, you have nothing better to do than preload your throw. It's going to give you the fastest animation. It's going to set up the guys receiving the ball better. And you're going to have a better idea of if you can throw that runner out. You do not want to have that awkward pause after you pick the ball up because you haven't loaded the throw. You can load the throw at any point, whether you have the ball or not. I could be running at a ball with the center fielder, and the right fielder could get there first, and if I preloaded a throw with the center fielder, the right fielder's still going to throw the ball. So preload your throws, especially with the catcher. You are never going to throw somebody out in this game if you are not preloading your throws with the catcher. If you see somebody going, if you get that sound cue, you need to be holding the base you want to throw to before the pitch gets there. That's going to give you the fastest pop time. That's going to give you the best chance of throwing that runner out. Number 20 on fielding is hit your cutoffs. This is more of a lower rank thing. I see a lot of people, when I played BR, and it's like the first few games of BR, where they are bouncing the ball. They're throwing an 8-hopper from the right field wall to home to try to throw out a runner that ran over home plate 5 seconds ago. You got to hit your cutoffs, especially if you don't have Ronald Acuna in right field. You got to hit your cutoffs. It's going to make the world a lot better place for you. So you want to be hitting your cutoffs and going back to button accuracy. If you can hit 2 perfect throws in a row, that's like 3 steps you've shaved off of being able to throw the runner out. So there is a skill gap in that, and you will get rewarded if you get proficient enough at hitting not only green throws, but perfect throws. 21. So this is my miscellaneous stuff. Just little things here and there. We'll actually go to 22 first. So we're getting a little crazy just because we are already here. What you want to do is you want to make your Diamond Dynasty roster in the main stuff. This is going to be more important for next year than it is this year. Obviously, this year's pretty much done. And chances are you've already got very comfortable with a couple of your batters on your DD team. But basically, you are making your roster in reg teams so you can do custom practice with your exact DD team. The way you do this is go to roster control. You'll go into player movement and you'll trade everybody over. So if we go to my Tigers here, you will see I have Griffey, I have Trout, I have Acuna, I have Chipper, Mookie, Adley, J Ram, Santander, a lot of the guys, Ellie. I have a lot of the guys that are on my DD roster, and then if you click into here, you can also set your lineup the exact way it is in Diamond Dynasty. So if I go over to Diamond Dynasty right now, you will see that my lineup is structured the exact same as this one. So that is a huge thing to do when you are trying to get more comfortable with your hitters, because a swing can grow on you, and it cannot grow on you. So if you ever want to try out somebody's swing, this is a great way to do it also. But if you make your DD roster, it enables you to do stuff like this, right? I can go to custom practice. It'll always pick my favorite team as the first one I click over to. So I can like do this. And right, I'll go over to team practice. We will be on offense. I can set up any situation I want. As long as you don't have repeat play on, I'll just leave it on beginner from earlier, from the early tags, just to show you guys. Obviously, I think that's probably a home run. Yeah. So not the most ideal, but I could put runners on the bases. And what I like to do to warm up is I will sit here and I will play until I get 3 outs. And then I'll hit reset play and I'll run it back, right? And I'll do this on like legend difficulty to warm up before I hop in ranked games, Hall of Fame, whatever difficulty I'm expecting to be on. I will sit here and basically simulate games on those higher difficulties and get more comfortable with my batters and get warmed up and used to their swings before I'm playing. So my last thing, and this is insane how many people do not know about this, but I also kind of understand because it's not really explained super well. It's not explained anywhere, I don't think. If you are playing ranked, after you pick your stadium, you get this little slider. I'll probably find a game pretty quick, so it's not the most poignant. But you can actually move the left stick or D-pad or however you want to do this, and you can shrink and raise your slider. A lot of people don't know that, right? If you only want to play people super close to you in ranked, you can just move it all the way to the left, and you will only play people near your rank. That is the cool thing about the slider. I think a lot of people don't know this because you can't do it in BR. Obviously, that would be a little busted. And you can't do it in events. But in ranked, you can do it. Hopefully in ranked co-op next year, you can do it. But that's a different story. Use the slider. The best case I can think of for this is if you are an all-star player and you are scared to play on, scared might be the wrong word, but you would prefer not to play on Hall of Fame, you can stop the slider at 599 and not have to ever play on Hall of Fame. Obviously, if you win enough games, it will be inevitable at some point. You'll have to. If I'm looking for a game and I don't feel good that day, I'm like, I cannot be on Legend. I am not ready for Legend. I will stop the slider at 899. Or, wherever close to that it stops at. I don't want to play on that difficulty. I'm not ready for that difficulty. I'm not mentally prepared for that difficulty. You can stop the slider. You don't have to play on those higher difficulties. You are in complete control of who you play. Obviously, if you win too much, then it is what it is. And your team's overall kind of changes that. You can see in the bottom left rating mod. But I think that's just kind of an artifact from a couple years ago where it actually did something. I don't think it changes your rating a significant amount depending on how good your team is. And obviously everybody's running 99 team at this point of the year. But yeah, guys, that is my 22 tips that I left out at some point this year that I wanted to share with you guys. Just small things here and there that can take your game to the next level. If you can do all of this, it's going to get you more runs. Obviously, hitting and pitching is still the most important parts of the game. It's at least 80% of the game, if not more than that. But doing a lot of these things can kind of elevate your game to that next level. If you're a borderline World Series player, doing these things can make you a solidified World Series player, a perennial World Series player, however you want to phrase that. Stuff like that. These are the small things that most people don't think about that can take your game to the next level. Little tips here and there, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully it was maybe not the most entertaining, right? Most of it was me staring at a screen while explaining stuff to you guys. But hopefully it was informative, and hopefully it can take your game to the next level pre-MLB The Show 24. If you're not going to remember all this, if you're not going to remember the video, it will probably be rehashed come 24. Just not sure when. Depends on how much content we have. But yeah, guys, that's going to be it for me. Till next time. Peace.